Red Bull's situation with the second seat is becoming alarming as the squad struggles to score points and keep themselves relevant in the Constructors' Championship. Now that Tsunoda's stint as a Red Bull driver is performing very poorly, the Thai-based ownership has one particular driver in mind to return to their family. But with the Austrian team now being the laughingstock of Formula One in terms of downgrades, and the new regulations not tipped to favor them at all, will they be an attractive market for their former driver? And if so, what would these respective teams look like if such a gigantic move were to happen? There is no doubt that Red Bull are struggling a lot with their driver lineup, especially when it comes to the second seat. Apart from the fact that they have to think about Verstappen leaving after 2026, they have to worry about the car's development going in the wrong direction. Nothing seems to be working on the RB21. This is a worrying trend for 2026 as well, because if Red Bull are going to start the campaign with troublesome performance, which is highly likely due to the tipped engine deficiency compared to the rest of the grid, then their technical squad won't be the best one to fix these issues. And that is the first red flag a driver should have in their mind when it comes to changing teams. Is your potential next home equipped with experienced technicians to fix problems of this nature? That's precisely why Red Bull will need strong drivers to extract as much performance and data from the car as possible. With the departure of Horner, certain doors have opened, and the Thai-based ownership, one that played a crucial role in his departure, by selling the 2% that made the Austrian side majority holder, has something in mind. Chalerm Uvidia, the owner of 49% of the team, would reportedly love to have Albon back in the Red Bull family. The fact that they enjoy a very close relationship, also connected to their country of origin, is further facilitating these talks. And at the end of the day, nothing should surprise us if we see developments heading in this direction. Of course, this is a very far-fetched scenario as we speak, because Albon is having a great career at Williams so far. He's leading them to P5 in the Constructors' Championship and setting a perfect baseline for the 2026 regulations. The Grove-based squad will use Mercedes engines, and that should give them a big advantage as they look to finish on the podium much more frequently. But then again, we're talking about Red Bull. The Austrian team could turn to a rebuilding project if their powertrains fail to deliver expectations. But at the end of the day, we've seen them rise from far worse situations, such as the one with the Renault engines back in 2014. It's not like Albon owes something to Red Bull, but they did bring him to the sport through their academy. He raced for Toro Rosso back in 2019, and after just 13 races, he was promoted to Red Bull as a replacement for Pierre Gasly. Certain circumstances made his stay in the team questionable, as he failed to score podiums and keep up with Verstappen. So in 2021, Red Bull decided to replace him with a more experienced driver, Sergio Perez. At the beginning, this seemed like the perfect choice, because Perez had shown incredible performances with strong defensive drives like the ones in Turkey and Abu Dhabi. But as time passed, we saw the type of talent Albon had hidden all along. That's precisely why Chalerm wants to have Albon back on his team. This time, however, it's going to be more difficult, because he is not the one owning 51% of the team like he did back when the Horner saga was ravaging Red Bull's internal circles. The former team principal had the utmost support from Chalerm, and that's probably why he kept his job alive for so long. But with the tide changing now, will Albon actually make sense for Red Bull? If this move were to happen, the Austrian team would be at a huge advantage. They'd get their driver back, but with far more experience and knowledge of how an F1 car should behave. However, the circumstances at Williams are far different. They've centered their project around him, and he's become the pillar of the new regulations they're eagerly awaiting. Massive steps have been made by a team that once went without a single point in a season, and the duo of Sainz and Albon is tipped to be one of the best on paper for 2026. But the opening next to Verstappen is just too tempting to ignore. Yuki Tsunoda's latest performances are questionable. Since becoming Max's teammate, he's only managed to score 7 points. For comparison, Hadjar has scored 22 points and Lawson 20. This shows that maybe the car is the problem. If that's the case, Albon will think twice before going back to a dysfunctional team that ditched him in 2020 and left him seatless for 2021. Of course, Horner was still team principal back then, and now with him out of the picture, the nature of any agreement could be very different. Still, I highly doubt Albon has any logical reason to leave Williams for Red Bull, judging by current developments for 2025 and 2026. The big question mark here is the new regulations. No team knows how their car will perform. With so many changes and so much innovation, it could go either way. But with Mercedes and Ferrari tipped to have the upper hand due to engine supremacy, Williams could become a strong contender, while Red Bull, newcomers in this category, might struggle to keep up with the top teams. This could also prompt Verstappen to leave, something we've discussed in earlier videos. The silver lining is that Verstappen and Albon still share a good relationship. Albon was never a direct rival to Max during their time together. He was always behind in performance. But from today's perspective, Albon would still be an upgrade over Tsunoda. I'm not throwing shade at the Japanese driver, but he hasn't delivered when it mattered most. Spending 5 years in the junior team, the longest for any Red Bull-linked driver before promotion, hasn't translated into results. Although Tsunoda claimed the RB21 wasn't too hard to drive during his first test, scoring just 7 points in 12 races is far below expectations for a second driver in a top-3 team. And here's the issue. If Red Bull underperforms in 2026, they'll face a disaster in the constructors' standings. If Verstappen's performance dips due to a flawed powertrain, Tsunoda certainly won't be able to match him, which will drag the whole team down. From being a top dog, Red Bull could drop to the midfield, or even the back, if Max decides to leave. That's why replacing Tsunoda with a stronger driver is a priority for the Austrian squad. According to Laurent Mekies, former Racing Bull's team principal, the goal is to give Tsunoda another chance before starting 2026 talks. Mekies explained that the priority is to give Yuki what he needs to perform. Spa was positive from that perspective, while Hungary was trickier to judge, but there's no reason why Tsunoda's performance can't return to its previous level. Be that as it may, there are still many loose ends at Red Bull, and the second seat problem will haunt them for some time. It's obvious the car isn't built around Max. He's simply able to adapt and tame it in a way only he can. But that doesn't mean a second driver shouldn't be able to deliver nearly the same results. The top candidate internally is Hajar, with Lindblad expected to join Racing Bulls to prepare for a future Red Bull role. However, a shock move involving Uvidia and Albon could still be on the cards. With all this in mind, do you think Alex Albon is a legitimate candidate to replace Tsunoda? And if so, how do you think the Austrian team would operate under these circumstances? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do, make sure to click on the video that appears on your screen right now.